name is Sophia Pico, and I'm a junior at the Academy and part of the TEDx Youth Club this year. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Tadbo Nyepa. Dr. Nyepa is the Arthur Hammerschlag Associate Professor of Chemical Engineering and Biomedical Engineering at Carnegie Mellon University, where he leads an interdisciplinary research program at the interface of biology, materials, and engineering. Dr. Nyepa earned his bachelor's and PhD degrees in chemical engineering from Syracuse University, following initial studies in Germany and the Ivory Coast. He then completed a postdoctoral fellowship for academic diversity at the University of Pennsylvania and previously served as an assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh. At CMU, his lab focuses on three primary areas: developing physical-chemical strategies to combat drug-resistant pathogens, uncovering the role of fluid interfaces in biofilm formation and function, and engineering platforms to replicate and study the human microbiome through microbial encapsulation. His work advances new paradigms for antimicrobial technologies, the design of living materials, and the investigation of difficult-to-cultivate microorganisms. Due to his passion for STEM, Dr. Nyepa has been credited with several awards that acknowledge his strong contributions in the field, including the NIH Director's New Innovator Award, the NSF Career Award, and the 2024 ASME Rising Star of Mechanical Engineering Award. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tadbo Nyepa to the stage.
Thank you so much for this great introduction. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. It's such a pleasure for me to be here this morning to present. I would like to thank everyone, especially all the speakers that came before me. And of course, Emma, she made it work harder for me at this point. But anyway, I would like to start by this question that a student asked once to a faculty member. Have you ever gone an extra mile just to be able to help if I were a different student? That was a question that the student asked once. Basically, that faculty mentor has gone an extra mile somehow to help the student, and the student couldn't conceive why this was happening. In response, after a brief pause, basically the faculty member answered that student and told her, you know, I'm in this position today as a professor just because of countless people that were before me. And those people made tons of sacrifices to help me. And they did it without necessarily expecting anything in return. I am originally from the Ivory Coast. This is where I was born, and this is where I grew up. The Ivory Coast is a French-speaking country in West Africa. I grew up not in a privileged family, but basically with a strong desire to become a biomedical scientist. At the time when I was graduating from high school, basically there were not many opportunities for me, but my dad passed away, which even further limited my opportunities, and I decided to do something closely related to biomedical engineering. I decided to sign up in college where I could study food science instead. I did receive an associate degree in food science, and after my graduation, I decided to move to this place called the Pasteur Institute in order to be a researcher. Initially, I was a food microbiologist, and then later on, because of the need in the medical space, I got transferred as a medical microbiologist. So every single day that I was going to work, and this, I was doing that voluntarily because I was not getting paid then. I was collecting urine sample, blood sample, and trying to diagnose what was making people sick. Until I met that lady here, Professor Dosomia. That saw the potential and the commitment in me. Every single morning, I was the first to arrive at work, and one day she asked me, what was a vision? What was I thinking about doing afterwards? Well, I knew one thing for sure, that I wanted to be a biomedical scientist. But the path to achieve that in the Ivory Coast was very much limited. That if I wanted to think about something else, I should have moved somewhere in Europe in order to study. Then she thought about that big plan. In the Ivory Coast, when somebody was sick, and want to have some type of medical exam, he has to travel the whole country to come to Abidjan, where this institute was, in order to get tested. She thought that because of your background in food science, maybe we can start working on this big project in order to start creating culture media, reagent, and distribute them across the country so that people don't have to travel. And I really like that vision. I'm very sad. We worked together for about 2 years, and she acquired a grant, and she started giving me a stipend. As I received that stipend, I decided to do one thing, saving that stipend. And at the end of the day of work, basically, I decided to walk down the street where the Goethe Institute was and to learn German, because I was trying to move to Germany to continue my study. And then I went to meet another lady at the Goethe Institute that saw also my commitment in terms of learning a new language. That lady offered me scholarship, but she went an extra mile. What she did was basically to provide me with the support and even to sponsor my visa application in order for me to move to Germany. As I got to Germany, I started my study, and I met my wife. Moved to the US because that's where she lived, and with the support of my wife, basically, I was able to go to Syracuse University, where I did get a bachelor first and my PhD. In the midst of that, I met a bunch of people on my way that helped me. One of them was that professor, Dr. Nguyen, who saw again the potential in me and offered me a PhD position. But in addition to Dr. Nguyen, there was this VP for research at Syracuse, Gina Lee-Glauser, who decided to offer me the support needed. And she went an extra mile to expose me somehow to any faculty member of color who visited the school for me to get inspired that way. She taught me how to write grant, and basically she prepared me to become a faculty member. As they say, you really take more than a village. But more than a village because this community alone wasn't enough. I had to go and further my education somehow with people that were self-mentored. As you can see here, I'm on this picture with two famous professors from the University of Pennsylvania that sat on the ground to prepare me for my first interview. When in 2017, I finally got my first offer at the University of Bristol to become a professor. I understood that my mission would be basically to train people, and I should do that with my whole heart, not necessarily to gain any profit. So, to answer the question of that student, why do I go in a strong mile? If my job as a professor was just motivated by the desire of getting any profit, something that's beneficial to me, then my job would be meaningless. So, what I do as a professor, as I mentioned here, I cannot wait and I cannot afford to be comfortable before I give back and I help others people. So how do I give back to him? Well, a professor, of course, you guys might know, teach and do research, and basically might also do what we refer to as service. So service will never come with something in our job, but that's something that we have to do because we really have a certain passion for it. So my way of doing that is basically to train and give opportunity to students. In this series of pictures that you will see, this is where basically my life started, with 2 undergraduate students that saw again the same vision, the same passion that we have for research. Those students started working with me in my lab. Even my first paper as a professor was from those undergraduate students. So I started building my whole team around training and mentoring those students. As you can see here, a bunch of them will come back again just because they got this opportunity in my lab. Then another type of mission that I served was basically to go outside to give this opportunity to people that may not necessarily get them. So as I received my first research grant, especially from NSF, which is called the NSF Career Award, that also not only support the faculty member for research, but also gave them enough so that they can do some outreach program, I decided to go to Puerto Rico. To that school that is called Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico, it is just an undergraduate institution, and I would say the largest Hispanic undergraduate institution in the US, including Puerto Rico. Then, I was able basically to talk to those students, and out of this interaction, I was able to recruit 3 of them that are currently my PhD students. So my lab today has about 9 PhD students, and among those 9 PhD students, about 5 of them are from underrepresented minority, and 3 from Puerto Rico. But this wasn't enough for me. Basically, those students, as you train them, you start introducing into their mind the fact that they have to also give back to some extent. So we decided to start designing a program that will even go further by training high school students. So university usually will not do that, but we decided to do so just because we wanted to start at an earlier age, to start basically introducing those students' mind that desire to also make some innovation and potentially start impacting the whole world. So my first interaction with any high school in this area was with Alderdice. Alderdice High School has a very large, diverse population of students, and we started recruiting them, and some of them introducing them to our lab, as you see here, being mentored by some graduate students. But those students come to the lab in order to do work, in order to do research that is part of our mission. And we have some successful stories. So here I'm listing basically some of the awards that those students got. But one of these successful stories is maybe from Daniel. Daniel was a high school student that spent about 2 years in my lab. And he reminded me of myself, where every day after school, at 2 p.m., Daniel would come to the lab and trying to experiment everything that he could, trying to work with every single PhD student that was running in the experiment, just to understand exactly what they're doing, what it was the mission of that. Daniel here won the regional prize, and then later on, he did win the Davidson Scholarship, and that was in 2023, where I was invited to come there. Then we moved to CMU. And in CMU, basically, our idea was basically to make that opportunity for high school students even larger. So, not only my lab was involved initially with my PhD students, as you can see here, and recognize some of the students from Sewickley, but basically, we're trying to make sure that we give back to some extent. And this was our way to give back, to start extending this program, not only to my lab, but to also for more faculty members at CMU. So today, in this program that is called Bugs as Material, which is part of what I do every single day in my lab as a researcher, basically we introduced more than 8 faculty members in the School of Engineering at CMU to basically work with those kids that now we're recruiting. So here on this picture, you can see from right to left, we have a student from Quake Valley, from Monto, we have another student from Sewickley, we have a student from Central Catholic, and we have a student from out of state. And this is how our reach has been important, just because we're trying to have an impact on those kids. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily that because we're trying to make our work much more impactful by reaching out to our community that we're limiting actually the excellence that is done in the lab. Actually, the work that we do is so deep that basically we get invited to go worldwide in order to talk about our science. This is a picture that shows basically where we go, went in every single continent, including the Middle East that you can see here in Uganda. Basically, the idea is that to be able to give back to those students, to be able to give back to those communities, even if they're farther remote from us. As you can see, Senegal, Brazil, basically all these people seem to be easily motivated when we offer them a certain opportunity to interact and to collaborate with them. So, what is the reward? Well, I'll show you a picture of Daniel. I'm not done with Daniel yet. 12 days ago, he was awarded the Gold Water Scholarship. And at Duke University, it was only 4 people that were selected. Daniel is from Alderdice, and Alderdice, I think, has 2 Nobel laureates. I imagine that he might be the 3rd one, coming soon. But there's no other greater joy when you get these type of text messages. And that was 2 days ago that I got that. Hi, Dr. Niepa. I hope you're doing well. I just want to let you know that I received a faculty offer from undergrad DME, and I'm in the process of negotiating terms. I just wanted to get any advice you have, if you have any time to chat. This is one of the students that shown in those pictures, now becoming the faculty member. So what it means to us is that those students came back and embraced that motivation or that vision that we had to start with, to a point where now they take on their shoulder that same mission and want to propagate the world. So, I always remind myself of this word that a friend of mine told me once. If you cannot give when you have little, you will not give when you have much. Because there's always a reason why it isn't enough. So, with little, we want to be able to give back. And this is the meaning of service. Service basically creates access to opportunity that talent alone cannot provide. And when talent thrives, it's just because talent is supported. If there's a lack of support, talent will not necessarily thrive. But think about it. As you invest in people, you invest based in your own community, because you invest in the foundation of people that will form this strong community, and that strong community is what's going to end up changing the whole world. So, the last thing that I will leave you guys with is that service does not only change life, but service helps us to build a strong community that is still sustaining itself. Thank you.